I'm sitting here today with one of my good friends, Dr. Lisa Olszewski, Lisa O to the rest of the world, right? And
Yes.
I've known her ever since she was a student of mine at Palmer College. And she was one of those people that just excelled, became not only the head of one of the National Association student programs on campus, but actually became the head of the student program for the entire nation. And now she's the first woman to be the president of the MAC, the Michigan Association of Chiropractors, which in my opinion is without question the most successful chiropractic association anywhere in the United States. It's incredible what they do. Just imagine having a conference and 1,000 chiropractors actually show up at the conference. So
Twice a year.
congratulations. What's that?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. That's absolutely right. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
not only for all the things you do from a competency standpoint, but also coming and sitting at my home and sharing, breaking bread with Erica and I and the rest of the gang. So good friend also.
Yes.
But Lisa's claim to fame for at least our discussion today is she is not only a chiropractor, but she is a naturopath and has an incredible background in the area of nutrition. In fact, in the app MLiQ, she took us on a tour through the grocery store talking about how to shop the perimeter, which when you hear about it makes so much sense because that's where the whole foods are versus walking up and down the aisles buying things out of boxes. So why don't we start there?
Yeah.
Right. Let's start with some ideas on why it's important for people to eat whole foods, how to begin to look for organics, what kind of things people should try to avoid, and let's go into the grocery store.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those things that people, we understand within chiropractic that our brain is sending signals to the rest of our body all the time, right? And we have always said that we can sit there and eat and take the most great supplements and all of that. But if the nerve supply to our stomach isn't proper, we're never going to assimilate those nutrients. But it's the same thing that every cell within your body replicates at a different rate, right? So I always tell our patients, your stomach cells replicate every 3 days, your liver regenerates every 7 years. So who you are today is a completely different person than who you are 7 years ago, but you have complete control as to who you become based on those decisions, right? So it's the quality of food that we're taking into our body. We also know it's our thoughts, it's everything else. So here's the reality. Let's look for most vibrant, most healthy food for the nutrition of our cells, for our entire structure. So that way we can create an amazing human being 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Because this is what I always tell my patients, right? Nobody wakes up saying, man, I hope by the time when I hit 50, I feel lousy. Right? I want to make sure I hurt so bad getting out of bed. It's going to be hard to walk down the stairs. I'm going to yell at my kids. I'm going to do nobody starts out that way. But how many people wake up at 40 or 50 years old and says, holy smokes, what happened to my health? This is not what I thought, or I'm just like my parents. So we have that reality. You get to create who you want to be. And so the fact of the matter is it starts in the grocery store. So let's stop with the food of no nutrients, which is all those aisles. And let's start looking at just whole food nutrition. And when I say whole food, a lot of people are like, oh, I need to shop at Whole Foods. No, a grocery store.
I think one of the things before we jump into that, one of the things you just said is so profound because we were all raised in the medical model that said who you are and how long you live and what your lifestyle and issues are going to be. It's all in the genes. It's all predetermined. And of course, what you're saying very clearly is it's all under your control. It's not all predetermined for you.
I use this example all the time, and you're going to appreciate this because you brought this instructor to Palmer. But I always tell people how great it was to have Bruce Lipton, who was the medical doctor, teaching us in chiropractic school that your genes do not control your destiny. And the fact, I share on my podcast, that who you are, your genes, you are not a victim to them. You turn on and you turn off genes all the time. And that is the field of epigenetics. And so in Dr. Riekeman, I learned that 1999, I learned epigenetics. Bruce Lipton was sitting here telling us about it. He had been fired from, med school because that wasn't the reality. And I remember in 2010 being at JFK Airport, getting ready to fly to Israel. And the cover of Time magazine said, or Time or Newsweek, the new frontier epigenetics. Your genes do not control your destiny. And I sat there thinking in 2010. So how many years ago is that? That
Right.
I was like, I learned this a decade ago. So it is. It's the chiropractic philosophy side of it of,
Yep.
wow, like we have total control. And
So
so it is.
let's go to the store.
Yeah.
Let's talk
So a
about
box of Twinkies is going to turn on all the bad genes. How about that?
right.
So when you go into this,
I love the people that think that drinking Diet Coke's better for them than drinking regular Coke.
right? Because there's so many chemicals and they think they're getting away from the sugar. I'm going to tell you this, your body doesn't understand chemicals. And so the aspartame or whatever that is, and we also know all of the horrific side effects of that stuff from some of the studies, we can look at that. But the fact of the matter is your body would understand sugar better than it would a chemical. I'm not advocating Coke, just drinking regular Coke over Diet Coke, but I would rather prefer water because that's something your body understands. But right. So we want to look for foods with basically, if you've got a label on it with a lot of ingredients, that means there's a lot of stuff in that food that your body needs to be able to process. And so I want to go as simple as possible. And especially, well, we'll jump into organics in a bit, but looking around the aisles. So you've got your fruits and your vegetables, you have your meat, your poultry. I'm not a huge fan of dairy, but if you're going to do dairy, we can go into that as well. But it's all around the aisles. The box foods, when that really happened, there's so many preservatives in it. It's all for convenience. It's for lifestyle. Just so that way, hey, we can have food on our shelf and we don't have to go to the grocery store every 3 days. We can go to the grocery store once a month if we want to. But it's so devoid of nutrients and so many excess carbohydrates within the body, which when there's so many extra, when your diet is full of a lot of extra carbohydrates, breads, pastas, sugars, they break down into sugar in the body. And here's the reality, folks. Sugar breeds all sorts of stuff, bacteria, viruses, cancer cells, all sorts of things that way. But it also promotes inflammation. So if you're dealing with achiness, this is my running joke in my practice from Halloween until about Valentine's Day, when I go to adjust somebody and they're like, "Ew, I'll eat that sort." It should not hurt when I go to adjust you. I always know what their diet consists of. And I was telling them like, "Ooh, what have you been eating?" And it's that excess inflammation. So if you've got a lot of different aches and pains and dealing with that, cut the sugar out of the diet, all of the refined carbohydrates, get them out.
So there's a trickle down though. I mean, when you're talking about this is one of the other lifestyle, I won't say benefits, one of the other lifestyle things of shopping in the middle of the store, going up and down the aisles, is people don't have to cook, right? All they have to do is warm things up out of cans, etc. So what would you tell the person, let's say we're dealing with a person just getting started who's really motivated to do this. So they go to the store, they shop the perimeter, right, for the most part, and pick up a few things in the aisles that they have to have, but they shop the perimeter. What are you going to tell the person about they're not going to have to cook?
I know, right? But it's so like, I'm that person, I cook every night, but it's still maybe 10 minutes by getting your good quality protein, cooking that up in some good quality oil, getting your veggies, and you're good, right? It doesn't have to be this huge elaborate meal. Like, I know you love to cook. I hate it. And that's why I always thought, I'm like, this is lean. People would have to be okay with a steak and like green beans. Like that's my thing. But it doesn't have to be elaborate. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to cook, or I don't want to clean my vegetables, I don't want to do all of that, I'll let you have that cheat as you start to transition in. Go into the freezer section and grab your good veggies there. And that way, that's one less step to make it easier. But
so I know that in MLiQ, one of the things we're adding in the next couple of quarters is actual classes or cooking classes. But what would you say? Where would you tell a person to go? Like, is there a book? Is there a thing they should do that would be like basic to get started?
There are so many resources online. That's why I love the fact in this time period, just to search. That's for me. If I am looking for something, quick research online, just, hey, looking for a recipe for like mayonnaise. I make my own mayonnaise, right? I know now how to do it, but that's how I did it originally. How to make mayonnaise. Oh, I throw an egg yolk or egg with some lemon juice. Now I do my oil, boom, done. So quick resources that way. And plus, I mean, through all of your resource lists too here, I know you guys have a lot of different places there, but yeah. It's the internet is amazing at this point.
So what would you tell doctors? A lot of doctors would go, look, I just don't want to deal with it. Patients come in, I'm going to adjust them, which we know is the miracle, right? It's the juice is getting the subluxation corrected, right? It changes people's lives. But I said the other day in a presentation that my father, who graduated in 1947, that when he was practicing the 50s and 60s, they got better results of patients than we do today. And someone asked me why I would say something like that. And my answer was because their bodies weren't loaded up with GMOs. They weren't taking 3 or 4 drugs. They weren't in information overload, right? So they were totally stressed out with their immune system reacting, their fight and flight syndromes reacting. And they were eating foods that weren't dramatically depleted and full of pesticides. So what would you tell a chiropractor today that's practicing and that's the reality of the person walking in?
It is, right? Because I'm an upper cervical doctor, right? And so that's the fact is like back in the day of BJ era, people would hold their adjustment for months on end. And especially what I have seen over the past, however long we've been in this pandemic now, people are not holding their alignment near as long as they used to. Mind you, they never held for months to begin with because of all of these toxicities. We as a chiropractor must address this because not only is it the toxins out in the world that we're breathing in, the environment, everybody has one of these now, and everybody has their 10 or 12 pound head forward like this, which is undoing anything that we're doing. We're trying to retrain all of that. So it's absolutely necessary to give them the best possible circumstance to allow their body to heal, to get rid of, because everybody's chronically inflamed too, because they've got a diet full of crap. Yeah. So addressing all of it, and it's going to help your adjustments hold better as well. Well,
I'm already making plans to have a series where we get to talk for an hour.
Yeah.
But I know that our quote 10 minutes is up right now. Any last thing you want to say to docs or to patients that you think is just so critical to the future? When you were talking about waking up at 40, 50, Eric Plasker talks about waking up at 75 and wondering what the last 10, 25 years are going to be like. And you can't decide then. Obviously, the earlier you decide, the better off.
I know. I just had this conversation where I am so grateful for chiropractic and the healthcare decisions I've been able to make the last 20 years of my life, right? Yeah. And I want people, because I see it a lot with my patients where they say, and they're like, Dr. Lisa, your health is all the way up here. I don't know if I ever want to get up there. Like that seems like so much work to get there. But what you need to realize is that where we're at now was a constant evolution. It did not happen overnight. And I am the biggest fan of simple steps and small steps because they are what are sustainable. And so my biggest thing is if all you do today is you add in a glass of water and tomorrow you add in a little bit more water and you just continue on that little pathway, you will definitely be healthier in a month versus not doing anything at all. And then in a month, add in something else. And so the course of your life will be dramatically different, your life, your health, etc., just by implementing simple, sustainable steps. Because this is, and I'll leave it right here. I steal this from Tony Robbins. I love it. This is the best thing. When we look at our children, do we ever give up on our kids when they're learning to crawl and they're learning to walk? And do they sit there and fall and we're like, my kid's just not a walker? No, we never do it. We do it all the time with ourselves. Healthy living, too hard. Weight loss, too hard. No, don't give up on yourself. You are totally worth it. And, live vibrantly.
Yeah. I saw a similar quote that said, you've never seen a child after falling down 50 times say, well, maybe this isn't for me.
Right, exactly.
Right. So anyway, for those of you who are on MLiQ, doctors, Lisa has a lot of resources on our resource page that's available to you, not to the patients, but to you. And you might want to go there because I'm sure there's a lot of things you would want to share with your patients. So Lisa, thank you. And appreciate not only your expertise, but all the years of friendship.
Yes, appreciate you.